All right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you're like, Ted, you're supposed to be talking, and you would be right. Ever since FDR, we have watched a new president's first 100 days. Never will Donald Trump have as much political capital as he does right now, so he's jamming through as many executive orders as he can. Will he also be able to get his entire slate of top nominees through the Senate? What about his foreign policy? And, we haven't really heard much about legislation or bills. What should we expect there? Joining us, we are happy to have John Reid. He's a Richmond, Virginia-based talk show host and the former communications director for Senator George Allen, editorial communications chief at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Later, he served as the chief of communications for Iraq, Afghanistan Veterans of America, where he advocated for veterans' mental health funding. And right now, he's a critically acclaimed talk show host at News Radio WRVA in Richmond, Virginia. John Reid, thank you very much for joining us here on the TMI Show.
I'm glad to do it. I've enjoyed listening to the last segment. We could go back to Hollywood for ugly people. I was always really offended when I lived in D.C. Like, I'm not a supermodel, but it's not that bad.
Right.
And if you went to the inauguration this weekend, it was not ugly people. I mean, it was real. I mean, I was looking around like guys and girls. These people won the lottery of life.
Well, yes. Well, Lauren Sanchez, I would argue, stole the show.
It was great. I was there. I'm still kind of recovering from the weekend because it was sub-freezing temperatures, and
yes,
everything took twice as long to get through as I expected, and standing for 2.5 hours in 14-degree weather to get to the fancy inaugural ball that by the time everybody got in, they looked like the stepsisters in Cinderella.
Do people who live there have like heavy enough coats? Like I bet a lot of them don't.
Well, DC gets rough. I mean, not as rough as Chicago and everything, but it gets rough in January, February, and March sometimes. Yeah. But the weird thing was the people who thought, I have a VIP pass, and they thought that they would just waltz past everybody else, were stuck out there for 2.5 hours.
Security.
I had on a nice overcoat and a nice scarf.
It's always easier for you men. Let me just be
the women.
Be fair.
God, high heels, open-toed shoes with a little shawl, and 2 hours later,
they can't wear a hat, otherwise everything gets all.
It was rough. It was rough, but we're glad, or at least I am glad that Trump is there. I think he's knocking it out of the park. I don't really love executive orders. I would prefer that we get back to the old way where we actually discuss issues and we come up with compromise and solutions. But we're so far apart in the two political parties, and I don't want to be hyper partisan here, but I do think the Democrats set a new standard with executive orders where they're just going to push things through and hope that the bureaucracy will lock stuff in, that Trump's got no option except to come in and break every China plate in the China store and get us.
Well, John, I was going to say that. I was going to say you sound so conventional 20th century, like you don't want the mudslinging and you want people to actually talk to each other. This is the 21st century. You legislate by executive order, as we saw with Joe Biden coming in, setting the precedent for that.
Well, it was Obama who really accelerated that process.
I don't know if he did the most, but I will say that Trump is also legislating by tweet. I think that's the first.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I take John's point though, and I wonder what you would think about this. I mean, I think the problem with executive orders is that when you don't have a debate, then there's no buy-in, right? I mean, like if you have a robust discussion and then you come to some kind of conclusion and something passes, and then the public, even the people who are on the losing side of the argument, they're like, okay, well, this is where we are. And when you have an executive order, you don't go through that process. So then what you end up with is, for example, Joe Biden taking Cuba off the terrorist watch list. Trump puts them back on. The next Democrat will take them off again. It's just it's ping pong. Nothing's ever resolved.
The thing that Trump's done twice now is he got elected by actually being honest about the immigration position. He, for all the things that people don't like about him, where he stands on that big issue. And I think that's how he got the Republican nomination in 2016. I think that's how he got elected in November of that year. And then Democrats stymied him. And after what we've seen with the Biden policies, I think that was the linchpin for his victory this time. So for him to come in and really push through a recalibration of our policies on that is important. And when I worked in the Senate, which is truly, it's 20 years ago. I was there 2004, 2006, 2007. I remember sitting in those rooms and with senators and other senior staffers thinking, okay, we're never going to agree on how many H-1B visas, and we're just never going to agree. What can we carve out of immigration reform and find an agreement on? And my senator, George Allen, said, can we just seal the border and have a functional operational system by which people come and go? And they wouldn't even agree on that. I mean, it was unbelievable. That was 20 years ago. Imagine all the damage that's been done in the 20 years. So as much as I hate the executive order thing, something's got to lock this off so that we can get to a place where we make smart decisions about the second and third tier issues related to immigration and get the economy readjusted. Because right now you've got kind of a two-tier situation with people like me who are working, paying a fortune in taxes, up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I'm not in a chicken factory plucking feathers or anything, but every time the alarm goes off at 3:45, I'm upset about it.
Sure.
And you have other people who are kind of being treated, and I use this word advisedly, almost like indentured servants, because they've got nowhere to go if somebody mistreats them. That's not right. So we've got to get this thing fixed.